Aloha and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We are so excited that you are here, that you're joining us for this very, very, very auspicious moment. We are here together to celebrate the divine union of Venus and the Sun. And we have such a special gift for you. Astrologers Sasha Benedetti and Tami Brunk are here to guide us through this moment so that we can really harness the power of this Venus cycle and really seed it with lots of intention and lots of love as we start this new Venus cycle. So for those of you joining who are not familiar with what's happening, the way this is going to work is that Sasha and Tami are going to present a beautiful slideshow that helps you to orient with what is actually happening in the sky, why it matters, and then how we can work very consciously with this energy. After that, they are going to guide us in a guided meditation, and we are then going to go into, well, it's all going to be ceremony, but we're going to go into a ceremony point where you actually will have some time to reflect and write things down. And then we'll be closing up after that, doing some sharing and then closing. So there's a few things that would be really great for you to gather and have available for you, have available with you for this journey. And that is a pen, some paper or a journal, in oil or something, your favorite essential oil or something that smells really good to you. So that could be like rosemary or a flower or something that smells good. And then a candle and a lighter. So again, that's a pen and paper, an oil or something else that smells really pleasing to you, and then a candle and a lighter. So you can just gather a few of those materials right now. Don't stress. There's also going to be another period where we'll give you a chance to do that. And at this point, I would love to hand it over to the lovely Sasha Benedetti and Tami Brunk. Thank you so much for being here. You guys, this is a very generous offering of the heart. They reached out and said they want to do this. And can they do this? It was like, yes, please. So here they are. Thank you so much for being with us, ladies.
Thank you.
Is there anything? So both Sasha and Tami have been working very, very intimately with the Venus cycle for many years. So we have very seasoned Venus cycle leaders, really. I mean, you've been guiding people through these Venus cycles for many years. So again, we're grateful that you're here. I don't know if you want to go right into the presentation or if you'd like to say a few things first.
I'll go ahead and start sharing the screen here so we can have our images. Thank you so much for this invitation. I'm just so excited.
Uh-oh, Sasha, we lost your sound there. Oh, there you go. We heard thank you for this invitation, and then we lost you for a sec.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great, okay. So I'll just say, since I'm already talking, so Tami and I are going to be weaving this together with our wisdom coming into looking at the Venus cycle in different perspectives, because we have slightly different ways of looking at the Venus cycle. And I have been admiring Tami's work for quite a long time. And so I'm really excited to be in this collaboration. And it's very Gemini to be in this multiple perspectives on Venus. And so I just will open it up to you to also say anything you'd like to say. And we're just going to be in this dance, weaving between the two of us and weaving between information in our heads and then dropping into our hearts and our bodies. So we're just going to find our rhythm here and make our offering to you today.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sasha. And it's funny because when Sasha invited me to do this, I had just been playing with the idea of inviting Sasha to participate in a summit on the Venus cycle, because also, Sasha, I've just been seeing the beautiful work you're doing with Venus, and Venus sisters recognize each other. So we were having fun imagining, this riffing, this back and forth, and really, honoring the both and the different ways of working with the Venus cycle can enrich us, because that is a big part of what Gemini is all about. So I've been working with Venus alchemy since about 2010, I've been taking people through the Venus cycle as an initiation, guided by the Inanna goddess myth with Kaylin Castell, and doing it myself live with circles. And so this is just so exciting to be with you, Sasha, because I do think that when we work with these mysteries for a long time, there's just something that becomes very embodied about it. She just guides so much of what we do. So
beautiful. Yes, I'm so excited for us to share this time, and we'll just move together here and play. That's the intention, is to playfully move through this. And the piece that I think I wanted to add to that, is that we talked about this, and we want to invite you to find your own, what feels right to you, or to be in an open inquiry about the Venus cycle. And, we're going to give you these different possibilities. And at the end, you're going to have your own personal experience.
Yeah, and that was really, I think, when we first were talking about this, it's the first time we've really worked together. And that was one of the places we really connected around the way we work with these mysteries. It is so much about experience, it's about embodiment, and it's about opening it up and saying we each have our own wisdom that emerges when we work with these mysteries. So
beautiful. Here we go. So do you want to say something about this, and then I'll do that?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So we are on Earth, and sometimes I say to people, we are Earth. So anything that's happening to the Earth when we're in our bodies, which is where we want to be, when we're here, we're on Earth physically, and so our bodies connect us to Earth. And so we need to remember and start by remembering this and dropping in before we can even begin to connect with the sky mysteries. So, Sasha, if you want to help us drop in.
Let's just do this so simple, so easy, and allow ourselves to just take a moment. And the first thing I do when I'm dropping in is I slow down. I find that pace that I'm going naturally, and just see if I can naturally slow it down a little bit, sink into it a little bit, and just notice my breath. The breath is such a vehicle into this embodiment, especially with this Gemini energy in this Gemini cycle. So noticing our breath and allowing our breath to bring us into awareness of our interior space. Venus is so much about our interior, our feminine insides, no matter what gender we are. And then allowing the force of gravity, which is always pulling us down to the earth, just allow it to pull the tension we might be holding, the way we're holding ourselves up, and just let us sink in as that gravity flows. It's always pulling us, but imagining it flowing through us, and just letting go of anything that's keeping us from feeling relaxed and fluid and rooted. And you might want to take a hand and put it on your belly, take a hand and put it on your heart, and just feel into your own soma, your own body, your own tissue, your own bones for a moment. Starting from that space. Here we go. Oh, I have a little bit of a jumpy mouse, so sorry about that. Oh, it's really jumpy, pardon. You're getting a preview here of where we're going. Don't look at any of that. Okay, here we are.
So the Venus cycle is connected to, we're really exploring the relationship between Venus and the sun. And so today is an incredibly potent day because Venus and the sun are meeting at Cazimi is one way to say it. It's when Venus is in interior or in inferior conjunction with the sun. And that's going to happen in just about an hour. It's very soon. So what does this mean? How can we prepare for this moment? This is a ceremonial container now for us to drop into that now that we're fully in our bodies. And we're going to be exploring what that is over the remainder of our time together.
Yeah. So our bodies are these bridges between the earth and the sky. And our spine is really this way that we can connect the two of those. And so really feeling into that space where your body is actually connecting the cosmos and the earth is so important to really be available for this moment. So Venus represents heart and feminine wisdom and our bodies and receiving connection, relationship. And then the sun is that vital life force that lights everything up, that the whole solar system is revolving around. And so this union is bringing together those two energies. We can receive that within our own body. We can receive that within our heart space. And it's this combination of broken open sweetness of love and eros, together is one combination, or light embodied. So we can play with it a lot of different ways, but those are two of the energetics that are going to be meeting up at 1:44 Pacific time. Exactly. It will be the moment coming up soon.
So as we begin our time today, we're both Sasha and I work with a 19-month journey. This is one of the ways we can look at what's initiating now, is that when Venus and the sun come together in this way, that it initiates a whole 19-month heroine's journey. And I love that way of seeing it that Sasha articulates. And it's a life, death, rebirth of the feminine mysteries. So the way that I've worked with this historically is through the story of a goddess, Inanna, who goes through a death and a rebirth cycle. That story was actually patterned after the Venus cycle. It describes the Venus cycle. And so however you want to look at it, this is a powerful, potent 19 months that we're heading into now, that we could say, and this is one of the places where Sasha and I do it a little bit differently, but there's actually no conflict with it, because the way that Sasha and many other astrologers look at the beginning of the Venus cycle is that it begins when Venus, like now, is in between the Earth and the sun, and so interior or inferior conjunction. So a lot of astrologers would say that's the beginning point. The way that I work with this Venus cycle is that I see it as beginning when Venus first is visible in the morning sky, which is going to be actually about June 9th. So it's a little period after the exact conjunction, because many ancient cultures observed it in that way. But in both cases, we're really understanding that there is this seed point, and then there's this kind of activation of this new Venus Gemini cycle. And that's also part of why this is so powerful, is that we all get to be together at the deepest moment of kind of, it's a quiet moment, it's a still moment, kind of like the difference between the dark of the moon versus when you see the little crescent. The dark of the moon is when people would often have more of the interior kinds of ceremonies. It's when you would do something that's in more of a secretive or more of a intensive, potent way. And it's when that tiny crescent comes out that you're having the big celebrations. So like that with Venus, this is the moment where we go inward, where we really seed. There's an incredible potential energy to seed something powerful and new for this cycle. And we're doing it together with all of you. So it amplifies our collective intent.
Yes. I want to invite us all to take a really deep breath. I'm just feeling like every slide, I probably want to do that.
Yeah.
The energies are intense right now. I want to keep rooting into the breath, keep rooting into our bodies. And I'm just inspired to invite us into that. I love that we can honor the seed. And then also one of my favorite parts of the Venus cycle is to get up before dawn and look for her in the eastern sky. And even starting to do that maybe the 6th or the 7th, being like, oh, is she there yet? Is she visible? Because we really don't know until we know, till we see her. And I love what you said about, of course, I work with the story of Inanna too, and this possibility that when we go on our heroine's journey of this bursting of life and wanting to do something that seems impossible, if we're going to create amazing lives during these highly transitional, turbulent times, that takes some courage. If to stand up and be like, yes, I want to have an amazing life. I want to thrive. I want to be part of the new vision as we step into the age of Aquarius. That's the bold energy of the first part of the cycle when she's morning star. And then of course she goes down and down and down and down, and she gets humbled and she meets obstacles and disappears into the underworld and dies. something in us always dies in order to be reborn. What is outdated, what needs to be integrated within us. So it's both a letting go and also a claiming more of who we are in that underworld time. And then she comes back out in the evening sky, and she's climbing higher and brighter, and she's really gaining back her vitality, and she's been completely changed by that time of death. And now she's open to more compassion, and she's the mature feminine who's met the obstacles and knows how to really empathize with another's experience. And I find that what the real jewel of this is for us to live more authentically as who we are. That's the revolution, to actually show up and have that coherence within our being, that we are really vibrating with our own precious essential nature. And that is the goals are more the masculine hero's journey, but this is more claiming more of our presence, more of our essence, would be another way to talk about that. Oh, hang on, sorry. I have this wild mouse. It's not cooperating. Okay. There we go. So back to you, I think.
So, sure. So we can look at the Venus cycle in the simplest way by really looking at 4 different distinct phases. And the first phase is the one we're in right now. And from the way that I work with this, with Venus Alchemy and with my collaborator, Kaylin Castell, is we see this phase, which is really that period where you can no longer see Venus in the evening or the morning sky. So it's the magical time, and it's on average 8 days, but it really varies. It's that magical period where she's been in the evening sky. We're in love with her, seeing her brilliant, beautiful in the evening sky, and then she begins to dip down, and then she disappears. And then within sometimes as little as a week or sometimes less, around that, you see her appear in the morning sky. So it's this incredible shift and change. It's a metamorphosis. We see it as an underworld aspect, but it's more of an air underworld aspect. We'll talk about that in a minute, because she does a complete, like the butterfly, she transforms her identity completely and absolutely. So it's a quantum moment that we're in right now. So Morning Star is the next phase, and that lasts for about 8 months. And I loved how Sasha was describing that so beautifully. In the Inanna story, what I love about Inanna is that she is a goddess who actually chooses to go to the underworld. That's how courageous she is. There's the conscious choice making there, which is different than the Persephone stories. And it speaks to this kind of new arising of the feminine in our consciousness and in our culture, where we're actually embracing the darkness. We're embracing the hidden and the unseen. We're coming home to ourselves in a deeper way. We're ensouling, we're choosing the ensoulment process. So that's the Morning Star. You've got to be courageous and bold, as Sasha is saying, to do that. And then there's the underworld. The Inanna underworld phase is what we would refer to it as, distinct from the other, which is that it's invisible for about 2 to 3 months. This is when Inanna is going through this is when in the story she's on the meat hook. I mean, this is really the deepest, really gut-wrenching kind of experience. Sometimes it's experienced always differently, but as you know, it is a time where something is we're needing to do a deep let go. And so, you know, that period is that is a very potent period that we go through as well. And that's when Venus is on the other side of the sun. And then Venus appears as evening star, again, visible for around 8 months. So that's the 4th phase. So we're just at the beginning then in this incredible phase between 2 cycles where we're beginning now.
I am having the most delightful experience of twinning right now. Everything that just came out of your mouth, I'm just like,
I know, right?
So awesome. So yeah, beautifully said. And the other piece I would just add, because it might help people that are really trying to understand what's happening in the sky, is that metamorphic underworld, as Tami calls it, or reset phase as I call it, is when she's invisible, which is now. And it always includes her retrograde cycle.
Yeah.
So she always goes retrograde in the evening sky, but still visible. And this is something that's so interesting, is when she's at her maximum brightness in the evening sky, she's at a certain degree. And then when she meets the sun, she's at that same degree. And then when she shows up as morning star at her maximum brilliance, she's at that same degree of 13-degree Gemini in this case. So there's like this thread going through it where, starting with the retrograde in the evening sky, you know, we're in the 40-day retrograde period, but this particular part of it is when she's invisible. And that's so profound to not be able to see her. And then the other piece I was going to add about the underworld, I just loved everything you said. You know, I really see that splitting of the feminine as one of the first ways that we lost the wholeness of our power of the feminine. Again, speaking of energy, no matter what gender we are, but of course it can play out more strongly in women. But that light topside conscious and the dark suppressed, like, oh, don't want to know about any of that shadow, I'm not that. And you know, the way that Inanna, the queen of heaven on the topside world, who makes everything happen and she's got it all going, gets killed by her dark sister. And I really see those as two of the same, you know, it's our shadow part. And how she gets out of the underworld after being you know, given the eye of death by her dark sister, is because of her allies, because of her friends in the topside world help her. And what they do is they come and they empathize with Ereshkigal, the queen of the underworld's pain. Without fixing it, they just hold presence for her incredible emotional and physical pain, because she's giving birth and she's grieving the death of her beloved. So I think there's some clues there that are just so rich in the story, and why this is such a map. And I learned something new from it, and I teach something new from it every time going through this 19-month cycle. It's just so profound. I feel like it's really a gift from the ancients that we get to continuously discover as we come into more empowerment as equal beings on this planet, honoring all human beings and empowering all human beings to really bring our gifts during this important time. There it is.
So one of the, when you work with this for a while, it's so exciting to, as Sasha's speaking of that moment when Venus is first arising or first visible in the morning sky, there's just these different points in the cycle that just turn you on, that are just like, just so potent and powerful and joyful to connect with. And in working with this for years now, what Kaylin and I have with Venus Alchemy, what we've really come to see and feel is that there are different elements that are activated in these phases. So in this current phase, it's an air phase. So that's part of why this is a different kind, a different flavor of underworld from this perspective, is that it is reset. I love the way Sasha says that. It's a complete absolute reset, and it's quantum. Again, it's everything kind of, all the timelines converge at once. It's one goddess who is transforming into another goddess. So it's just this complete and total, it's a time of great, great mystery. So that's air. And then the morning star phase is fire. And there's a lot of that boldness, that passion, that strength that you need to have when you begin your initiation. And then the underworld phase is that deep feeling, that death and rebirth, the watery realms that we connect to. And then the earth is the evening star phase. You know, often in evening star, that's the love goddess. That's the wise initiated priestess. And so there's this degree of earthiness, of sensuality, of love that connects. It's more of really the earth feminine versus the fire, the solar feminine, that you're going to feel in the morning star phase. So, you know, I think Sasha and I both, I know from our conversations, very much are of the mind that it's essential to remember now that the solar feminine is equally essential now to activate within ourselves as the lunar feminine. So the more actional, fiery, yang feminine needs to be honored and reverenced equally to the yin, downward and in feminine. And within the Venus cycle, you've got both represented.
Beautiful. I just love that, you know, and the maturity that happens. I just am so loving this map of the elements, and to connect that to the earth, the wisdom of the earth is just perfection. Thank you for sharing this. And the other piece I would just say is, it's so delightful, of course, to know where one is born within this. So that's something that I encourage you to investigate. We don't have time to get into it now, but it is wonderful to know what phase were you born into.
Yeah, and I love that image that you have there too. It's gorgeous.
Got all the elements going on there.
Yeah. So.
Oh, sorry. That
Okay.
did it on its own. It's got a mind of its own.
That's totally fine.
Gemini fairy tricksters.
I know, fairy trickster. What would we do without it? I mean, it'd be boring, right? So with the way that that with Venus alchemy, the way we work with the Venus cycle, we're looking at Venus has a 19-month cycle that begins when Venus rises as morning star, and whatever sign Venus is in when she rises as morning star is what we would say is the overarching meta goddess, or feminine, the goddess that's arising and that's doing the work on the world stage, who's visible, who's in our who is really showing up in the world around us. And when I say when she rises in the morning sky, what I mean by that, and Sasha kind of referenced this, there's a general rule of thumb, which is that when Venus is about 10 degrees away from the sun, that's when she becomes visible. And it's not always exactly the case. So it's kind of a calculation astronomers also use. In any case, so that's what we use to create our pentagram, is to say this is about when Venus rises in the sky and in different signs. And these are the meta goddesses. So the way it works is she rises in a different season. Think about the signs as seasons. And so right now where we're at is June 9th or 10th. Venus will rise around that time as morning star, visible in the morning sky. And the last cycle the next cycle that we go to is Venus rises in the sign of Capricorn. And so that's the next point of the arrow. And then the next is, so we're showing you there's 5 different meta goddesses that are going to be activated in each of these different Venus cycles over a period of 8 years. So there's 5 different Venus cycles in 8 years. And the one we're at right now is here. And there's so much more to this, of course, but we don't want to go too much into the brain and the numbers space, because Gemini can really get off on that. But we want to stay grounded. But what's really potent about this Venus cycle in particular is that 8 years ago, when we had the last Gemini Venus cycle, that's when was in 2012. So of course, 2012 was incredibly important for many reasons, but one being that it was the ending of one of the Mayan calendars, and also because it marks one of the reasons why the period around 2012 is seen as so significant, is that this is the time period when the sun is poised at galactic center at the winter solstice. So it indicates a 26,000 year cycle. That's not going to happen but once every 26,000 years. In 2012 also, you had the sun with the Pleiades and a sacred date that's aligned to the sacred sites in the Mayan Yucatan area. So there are many reasons 2012 is important, but it was also this Venus and Gemini cycle where Venus crossed the face of the sun visibly, and some of you may remember that. And so this is the next Venus cycle after that. It's the next octave of that energy. So it's a return of that same medicine. So you could really say that this is the next iteration of what we were experiencing in 2012, which so many of us know is so potent and so important.
I'm just going to go back to this slide really quick, because that was an
beautiful
image of that moment in 2012. Oh, so much for that. There we go. And if you were there, you actually could watch, with eclipse glasses. If you saw it, we'd love to hear your experience of that. This is when I first started to sync with the Venus cycle. I had a major experience watching Venus and Sun. Venus basically eclipsed the sun. And we all were not, I wasn't knowing that wasn't going to happen again in my lifetime when I watched that. I just tuned in and got this incredible message around that this wisdom of astrology that can be so heady, it can be so linear and it can be so conceptual. It's in us. It's within our cellular knowing. And when we access our body, then it it comes to us. We can have access to our own inner knowing. So I love that. And that's why I call what I do Venus wisdom, is because it really encapsulates all of this continuous learning process, that our Venus isn't just a symbol on a piece of paper on our chart. It's a living movement, and that is the feminine. It's like particle or wave. We're looking at the wave, we're looking at the living sky. And up until that point, I was not working with the living sky. And so I've been very inspired since by astrologers like Tami, who really are looking at, what is happening in the sky. So even though 2012 wasn't on that particular star point that we showed, which I'll go back to, this cycle feels particularly important because it's resonating back to June of 2012, when really this new feminine energy came online, and the re-emergence of the divine feminine. If we think back, like, whoa, what's even happened? And all the iterations and all the explorations of that, with the advent of social media, which is very much a part of what we're moving into with the age of Aquarius, and how we're beginning to relate through technology more and more. And it feels like this is a next level of learning about what is the divine feminine. And so, I would call it the return of the solar feminine, of the heart leading, and this evolutionary edge of really meeting what's in our heart fresh and raw, and that the moon is more holding our story and our conditioning, and keeping us safe in a way that we don't get too blown out too fast, because Venus, this is her closest to Earth, crossing the sun. But when you ride with her all the way to the other side behind the sun, where you can't even see her. So energetically, we're stretching. And the only way to do that, I feel, is to have that container of the heart activated, because it's an incredibly integrated place. And then we can handle it.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I do, so it's interesting, when I first started giving astrology sessions and doing astrology, I remember I kept asking the question, what is the heart of this sign? And I love, Sasha, how much you keep going back to this Venus as really that heart medicine, in a sense, because I think one of the first riddles I had to encounter was, what is the heart of the sign of Gemini? Because as you know, Gemini is not traditionally seen as a heart-centered sign. It's seen in a very different way. And so I think it's been an incredibly important thing as we drop into that, is to ask the question, how does Gemini express from the heart? And it's not to say that the masculine doesn't have great heart. Mm-hmm. There's simply something about this, the essence, the presencing that Sasha's speaking to, that can take us down into the heart in a very essential way. And it is that invitation for us. A meditation for 19 months is, how does Gemini express from the heart? How does Gemini express as the feminine? And how do we embody her?
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to keep going here. I'm seeing our time. I'm like, oh, wow. Yes, it's so fun to talk. Okay, so here's a summary that I did through my Venus wisdom about what were the themes of this Venus and Scorpio Libra cycle. And so just note, the star that Tami just showed, that's the beautiful first appearance of Venus. And so she was straddling both the seed point that happened in late October, as well as, this last cycle, she was seated in Scorpio, but she rose in Libra. And we're at the end of a 98-year cycle of her starting her cycle with the sun in Scorpio. And we have one more cycle. Is that correct, Tami? In 8 years from now, it will be her last Venus and Scorpio beginning, I think 0 degrees Scorpio, and then no more, right?
Well, I think it depends. In your system, the system you're using, which is that the cycle starts when she's with the sun.
Yeah.
It will be one more in Scorpio. From the way that I've been working with it in Kaylin, we actually saw this as a threshold cycle between Libra and Scorpio. And we would say, because she rises very firmly in Libra, the next cycle, that it's very much Libra. So one of the ways to look at that is that no matter what, when you get to these cycles, you're going to have some threading together. It's like anything else. It's not like all of a sudden it's this other thing.
Mm-hmm. Gorgeous. So we're really looking at both of those consciousness, Scorpio and Libra. And so revolution in relating with self and other, transmuting these dominator patterns is so much a part of all that Capricorn deconstruction that's going on. And then with the Libra, I got so clearly this healing of the feminine and masculine split, that they're never not working in partnership within our being. And so many people I had such a profound healing of my own feminine and masculine energies within me. And in the women that I worked with, just so many stories about that. And really coming into healthy relationship where we can relate with another and they become a sacred mirror, because the container is love and trust. And then we get to see parts of ourselves that we can't always see on our own. You know, if we can trust, then we know that that feedback has something for us. And whoa, that is exponential growth in our own waking up to who we are. And so those containers are really important. A lot of relationships ended this last 19-month cycle. Confronting those deepest wounds of betrayal and violation, sexual, especially with the Scorpio, and then learning how to share that pain without weaponizing it. That's the Libra. How do I show up and honor my pain and my experience, whether it's with, you know, injustice, with, you know, the feminine masculine paradigm, whether it's racial injustice? How do I show up and come into a relatedness so that we can actually find our commonality without discounting the difference, and then move into partnership? Libra wants us to work in partnership. Libra wants justice. And so this commitment to equality is showing up so strong at the end of this cycle. And this cycle began right on the tail end of the Kavanaugh trials and the cycle before all of that got opened up. And we were really in the mix of what do we do about violence against women and how prevalent it is. And then at the end, we're looking at what do we do about police brutality and racial injustice, and the world is exploding with that in the midst of a global pandemic. So everything's in this incredibly changing time. And how do we find center? How do we come back to our heart and move from a place that we can actually be responsive instead of reactive?
Beautiful.
Do you want to add anything to this, or shall I go to the next one?
And that's powerful and beautiful. I think I'll just speak into the next one, because it just
great
follows on the heels of that.
There you go. So
when you look at it as Venus rising as morning star, and I think it's just a little bit different than when it's Venus is with the sun at the beginning point of the 19-month cycle. We look it back and we say that it was in 1922 that Venus started to rise as morning star in Scorpio. So that's when there are shorter and longer cycles. And so there's a 98-year cycle that we're coming out of. And so it's like a regime change that we're in the midst of. We're in this threshold, shifting from the meta goddess, again, this feminine presence that is the Scorpio goddess, who's been on the world stage for about a century. And now we're beginning this transition into Libra, which is more the peacemaker. You know, all the things that Sasha talked about, and really it's about this deep peacemaking on the inside and on the outside. How is it that we restore the vital bond, the coherence internally, and then the bonds with each other, and creating this community that is, it's a caring community. It's a loving, connected, presenced community. It's another way to look at it. So one of the things that Sasha, that you'd brought up, is that's so potent to remember when you're talking about dates and times and the way these cycles work, is that women first got the vote at the very beginning of this cycle, the Scorpio cycle. And that's one of the things to point to. You can also look at, well, that feels like the most essential thing. We could go on and on.
Yeah, or we could. Shall I move?
Yeah, keep going. So, and then there are different archetypes that we can work with of the goddess, and each of these, and this is part of what's so fun, you know, is just to ask, and I would invite you to also ask, what are the goddesses, what are the archetypal feminine presences that you would connect to around Libra? And some of those could include Hera, Juno, they might include the mermaid, and I want you to talk about that, Sasha, for a moment. If you want Mary Magdalene, you know, to me, that felt very much like a merging of the Scorpio and Libra mysteries. The Lady of Justice, Jigon Sasi, and for those who don't know who she is, she was the Haranasi, or the Iroquoian Mother of Nations. She was a great peacemaker, one of the three in their stories of Hiawatha, the great peacemaker, and the Mother of Nations. It's those three who helped to create an era, the Great Law of Peace, here on Turtle Island. And she was a significant figure as well that we work with really deeply when we work with this Libra Scorpio cycle.
Amazing. And how that really influenced the concept of democracy in this country. I
Profoundly, deeply, yeah.
I mean, obviously not enough to
Yeah.
To neutralize some of the incredible harm of colonization, but that was the spirit of what she was bringing. Was very much this Libra, you know, how do we work together in community? And the Europeans were probably pretty inspired by that and amazed by that.
Absolutely. Benjamin Franklin and the founders of the Constitution were integrated that, and it's the spiritual blueprint for a nation, even if you don't, if we haven't fully activated it yet.
I love that. It's like, oh, that just landed so hard. It's like, that's what we get to do in the age of Aquarius, because obviously the founding fathers were missing this huge piece around justice. And she really is like the mother of our country in that sense of like, that was the invitation. Like, that's what I'm totally receiving in this moment. Like, how beautiful. Thank you for connecting that.
Absolutely. And I have to say one other thing quickly. It's just that their way of governing, she was the first of the clan mothers, but their way of governing, like many traditional indigenous systems, was that the circle of the clan mothers or the grandmothers were at the top of the hierarchy in terms of making decisions. And that again was what we were missing. But I was just speaking to an Anishinaabe elder who was saying, we're reinstating that. That is changing. It's happening. It's being reinstated across indigenous nations in this country. So it's being seeded.
That is so beautiful. I mean, can you imagine if there was a council of grandmothers that the politicians had to go to in order to get final say on their plans of what they wanted to do? Like, that to me is like the absolute most magnificent manifestation of the Capricorn energy, which you talk about a lot, that grandmother wisdom. Beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, the mermaid, I'll just say really quickly that, you know, I'm in this open inquiry with the Venus cycle. So I have ideas about it, but then I just receive, and I just got so much this feeling and this image of this mermaid who's diving all the way into the depths of her pain and her suffering and her wounding, all the way to the bottom of the ocean to find the gem of her essence and her power that no one can ever take from us. And she's bringing that back up, and she's bringing it to the top side, to the land. You know, she's bringing her story of being victorious after really looking at the ways that others have not honored her. And this culture is based on fear and scarcity and can be incredibly abusive to most everyone. And how do we, you know, find that like primal innocence of our essence that is so powerful, and be reborn in that. So that was where the mermaid came from.
Oh, and that gave me chills. Thank you. That's, so then some of the archetypes of the Venus and Scorpio, Gemini cycle rather.
Oh, whoops. Yeah. A little typo.
This was intended to be the Gemini cycle. And again, this is just an open inquiry. You know, these are some of the concepts that are coming through now, and it's for each of us to open to that personally. There's the New World storyteller is one way we're seeing it. You know, Gemini tells a new story. Changing woman is a Dene or Navajo goddess who manifests the shapeshifter capacities of Gemini. Iris, the rainbow goddess, you know, Gemini has a great deal to do with the rainbow medicine wisdom. Ellen of the Ways is a goddess who is a way shower. She takes you between the worlds. She's also that shapeshifter, animal, human, creature goddess with Gemini. The Dakinis, you know, Sasha will speak to that. The Muses, she's our creative muse. Coyote woman, trickster. These are just some of the potential energies at play that we begin to seed our imagination. Do you want to say anything else about that, Sasha?
Sorry, I just got a message that people were waiting to get into the group. So I was just doing a little logistical thing here.
Okay.
But I will just say that that I really saw this archetype of the dakinis that come from the Tibetan tradition that are innocent and elusive and playful, but carry this fierce wisdom and will, you know, wake you up. They have that trickster too. so I love that. Like, I'm just really vibing on that, and I'm really excited to see how it evolves and how Venus in Gemini shows herself to all of us. And one of the main guiding principles is like, how do we show up with openness even as things become more intense, these open hearts. And that's like a wild move. It's a wild move. And of course, Gemini is ruled by Mercury, very much about the mind, and Venus is the heart. So it feels like there's this real synthesis between mind, heart, and how, mind can arise within heart. Like when our heart is leading, our mind can totally be included because of the integrative possibility of heart. But if we're just in our head and cut off from our body and heart, it's not like it goes the other way per se. And so that head-centric culture where we're not feeling into, we're just like about data and facts and not about the actual experiences, our living experience, and how do we honor both? And so I'm excited to see how that comes forth in this next cycle. Okay, so here we are.
So, and one of the ways that we may see Venus arise and become empowered, the Venus goddess in Gemini, is as a master networker. And so it's kind of following on the heels of that Libra energy, is about co-creative. I often think we're co-creating, when I've been working with this Gemini medicine, we're co-creating the new Earth playground. And so we are, together learning to find our co-conspirators and finding our magic and creating this together. And that's part of what she can help us do, is really weaving these fertile networks to really bring in this we have to imagine into what wants to come next in this fertile void. So you want to say anything else about that, Sasha?
I just love this picture. Just like receiving it. No, I think it's such an open invitation. Yeah, I'm wondering, I'm just going to say this out loud. I had texted Amanda, but I think I put the wrong group. It was a private group, the Astrology Hub Global Forecasting. And apparently there's a pile of people waiting to be approved in there because it's a private group. So if the powers that be that are listening can let them in before we do the ceremony, that'd be awesome. Okay.
Yes, we can.
Powers that be.
The powers that be can redirect them over to the main Astrology Hub page. So
beautiful.
We'll do our best to make that happen.
Yes, sorry about that. Wrong group. Okay, here we go. Oh, I just want to drink in that image. Just want to take like 3 breaths into this possibility, diversity, honoring diversity, connecting through care, bonding. I love those words. This is really what we're being invited into. We're in this threshold period between ages. We're stepping into the age of Aquarius. Some say, I say, December 21st of, this year. And so the invitation is so strong for us to innovate in how we relate and how we come together and how we re-envision the world to hold all of us and our beauty and our gifts. So thank you for finding that. I just love it.
Well, and I want to honor that it's the artist. I should have had the artist's name. It's Autumn Sky. And I think we can include that maybe in the chat later. Somebody can look it up and maybe include it. I know she's also a friend of Gemini Brett's, and this image has just deeply inspired me for years and years. So
beautiful. Thank you, Autumn Sky. Thank you, artists. Artists don't always get recognized because with the internet, it's sometimes hard to know who's connected to what. And just want to, Venus is so about art and beauty, and we're so blessed to have these images feast for our eyes to help animate these concepts and bring us deeper into our imagination so that we can dream together this new birth.
So in releasing the past cycle and opening to the new, which is what that's where we are today. We are in this sacred space witnessing with open hearts and minds. And Sasha, if you can just speak to this question, and maybe we just even put our hands on our hearts and just really feel into this question that Sasha's presenting that I so love, and just begin to move into that space of asking that question.
Yeah, thank you. How can I receive all that I need to know to heal and release the last 19 months so that I may show up with a wildly open heart and stay grounded in my purpose during these turbulent times? And it's okay not to know. It's beautiful not to know. I feel like that's one of the gifts of Gemini, is really staying fluid and staying soft and staying vulnerable in the not knowing of that space, of the new, because we never know. We never know. When we evolve, we're always stepping into the unknown. And so I guess the final kind of astrology piece I just want to bow to here is that also the nodal shifts just shifted into Gemini. So for the next 18 months, we'll have our eclipses in the points of Gemini and Sagittarius. And Gemini is opening up, and then Sagittarius is releasing. And so that feels like such an affirmation and such a rarity to have those nodal access points be close to Venus during the beginning of the cycle. And just really beautiful to see Venus show up again and again and again in this very important evolutionary moment. And I just keep coming back to, like, she's really here. She's our sister planet, and she's really here to reflect our power to us as we navigate this moment of incredible change and many different timelines. You know, it could turn out many different ways. And so we're voting with our hearts that it turns out in the way that honors our humanness and our naturalness and our connection to the earth and our love and our care. So yeah.
Beautiful.
All right. So I am going to just lead us in a little bit of a short process, and then Tami is going to lead us in a guided journey after that. And then I'm going to stop sharing, and we're going to put on some music for you to write about what just happened. So you might want to have your pen and paper handy and get comfortable, and just really, again, putting your hand on your heart and your another hand on the belly can be a really good way to drop in and really feel the warmth of your hand, feel the warmth of your own skin beneath your hand, feeling this space within your being that is the heart, that is this invitation into the mystery. I call it the place where we receive the mystery within our own body, and to really pull in so that you're actually right in front of the spine. Oftentimes we're a little bit farther out. So tucking in so we can really feel that spot and just feel if there's an opening there, like this beautiful flower image, feeling our hearts if they want to open, if they want to expand in this moment. And allowing your jaw to be soft, allowing your eyeballs to be soft, allowing your whole face and your shoulders, and just allowing everything to soften into this moment, especially putting some attention on your feet, maybe wiggling your toes, feeling where they're touching the ground, becoming aware of this magnificent earth being beneath us. And again, letting that gravity just pull away anything you do not need to carry now, anything from the last cycle that is ready to be released, and just imagine it all flowing into the earth. I like to imagine this rainbow light pouring in through the top of my head and just moving through my entire body, moving through my insides, and then just flowing out my legs, flowing out the bottoms of my feet, and just down into the earth. Let the earth compost whatever is no longer yours to carry, the tension, the history that's ready to let go. and feel the lightening of that. Allow for the release and to be lightened. To honor that, to honor all the work you did, to honor all the attention, all the tears, all the conversations, and just release, release, relax, relax into what is coming, to the new moment happening now. And one of my favorite things to do, and I do this on the daily, is to just say very gently the syllable of ah, 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 and notice what happens to your jaw. When you're saying ah, it opens and it softens, and you can maybe feel that right in your pelvic floor. Like the two are very connected. So how would your lips be if you're about to kiss your beloved? Allowing yourself to be in that softness as you now open to this new moment. The intimacy of meeting what is happening right now, really in your senses, in your full embodiment. So if you want to say that out loud in whatever space you are, just that ah, ah, ah. Let it all go and come into that spaciousness of possibility. We gave you a lot of information, a lot of images, a lot of possibilities, and now we're just gonna let it all go. And I'm gonna turn it over to Tami here, and from that open spaciousness, curious, are you curious about the new? Are you feeling that, ooh, what's coming? You're gonna lead us into a meetup with the possibility of this new Venus and Gemini energy.
So I'm going to invite you now to open your inner eye, and before you to see a beautiful ocean. You might look down at your feet and see your feet in the sand. You look out into the horizon and see the gorgeous waves and see the sun setting. And as you see that sun setting, you now see a light across that water rippling. And as you see that water rippling, you see the darkness cast upon the ocean, you see the stars come out, you see the beautiful constellations, and here you are standing on this beautiful beach, the beach where the world begins. And now you see rising. You see rising, a beautiful bright being, a bright star. You see morning star Venus. And as you see morning star Venus, you now see a figure arising from out of the waves. And from these waves, you see this being, this feminine form emerging. And as she emerges from these waves, you see her now approaching you. And you see her now emerging from the waters. You see her now before you. And here she is in her splendor and her radiance, this Gemini goddess, in the form that she wishes to appear to you, this Gemini goddess, surprising, new. And you just behold her, and you breathe with her, and you take her in with your eyes as she stands before you. And you see the radiance that she is, and you know that radiance lives as well within you. And you welcome her as guide, as ally, as way shower, and as a part of yourself, remembering yourself. And she may change form. She may move from one shape to another. And as you continue to enjoy being in her presence, you now invite her closer. And as you invite her closer, you feel her hand is now on your heart, and you feel this transmission. And it may show up as a rainbow light emerging from her hand, filling your heart, filling your entire body with the presence of the Gemini goddess, of the divine feminine. And as you feel your sisterhood with her and you feel your attunement to her, you now embrace her in this sacred union. And as you embrace this Gemini presence, this Gemini goddess, you feel her dissolve into your body, becoming one with you. You feel her becoming a living and alive presence within you. And you know, as you feel her and as you feel her presence, it's as if you feel the lights coming on inside of you, inside of your DNA. You feel your rainbow body beginning to vibrate. You feel yourself prepared and readied for the 19-month journey, prepared and ready for the new, prepared and ready for your heroine's journey, because she lives in you. And you look out and you see, and there she is, that beautiful shining Venus. And she's out there, and she's in here. And you just take a moment to feel that sensation of connection, of union, that magic of the as above, so below mysteries in your own beautiful body. And you feel yourself shine in the way that only you can shine, from the center and the essence and the presence of your deep feminine essence, illuminated through the presence of the rainbow goddess. And with another breath, you now return to your present moment, to your body, to the room where you now began the journey. You might again feel your feet on the floor. You might again feel your hand on your heart and on your belly. And you might take a breath. And now, as we begin to hear the music supporting you and opening to any other insight, any other revelation, you might wish to light your candle. You might wish to, if you have essential oils, to use those oils to also open your senses. And take the time now with your journal to record anything from this journey that came through that felt essential. Any ways you want to connect to the Gemini goddess and remember what you saw and felt. And anything else that came through that can help you and support you in your journey over the coming 19 months.
And I want to invite us to light our candles together. And so, but I think, in the spirit of Venus first and heart first, let's get out our oil first before we light the candle. And whatever that oil is that you have or plant, we're really honoring the senses here, the sweetness of Venus, and putting that into your hands. The hands are such an incredible part of being human, and I feel like that's so much of what we're invited, is to bring those divine energies into our human body. Tami, that was such a profound, beautiful meditation. And then smelling, like just really letting that smell penetrate your space. And actually feeling your body. It feels really good to just like that light touch on your body and just, wow, we have these incredible human vessels.
Yeah, the head.
Oh, the head. Maybe do a little like wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it. Yeah. Okay. You want to do the fire? I did the sweet. You want to do the hot? You want to lead us
Yeah.
in lighting the candle?
Yeah. So now let's take the time to just really honor. It's kind of like we honored, first of all, how would you see the element of scent? Is that more air?
Air or
Probably
earth, maybe.
air,
Yeah,
earth. Yeah.
sensation. Yeah, beautiful.
So let's now honor this ignition, this igniting. And to me, I think as we ignite this candle, it's almost like the oils kind of bring us into this moment of the sun and the Venus together in full embodiment. And then this flame is this activation even now of the Venus morning star rise, of this bright flame of new beginnings that we're all invited into. So let's go ahead and light our candles now with that.
Yeah, my flame. Yeah. We could sing. Beautiful. Yes. So I want to encourage all of us to, I feel like that flame is like lighting the devotion of having an experience with Venus in this next 18 months and getting up early and going and seeing her and seeking her. When will she appear? And really feeling into what she wants to move through you and deeper into your heart space for this next time. And let's be playful. Let's really invoke the courage to be playful in such an intense, heavy time, and appropriately, but we need to make space for that. And I just am so delighted to have this time with you, Tami. What a treat. And really appreciate this partnership and collaboration, and everyone who's here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Sasha. What a gift to gather. And I just don't know that I've ever experienced Gemini in such a grounded way. So I appreciate it so much. As a Gemini moon, thank you to everyone who's brought your presence, your ground. It's such a good time for that feminine presence. We need it so much. So thank you, Sasha, for that medicine.
Hey, Amanda.
Hi, Amanda.
And I don't know if people want to share in the chat, if they have been. I haven't been able to see nothing from over here, but I hope people will share their experiences, with each other of, the sharing and the talking and the speaking to this it so amplifies the Gemini.
I want to thank both of you ladies for being here and for, in real time, in embodiment, showing us Gemini, Venus, goddess energy. Playful, wise, inquisitive, and deep. There's so many things that really stood out about that entire experience. Such an invitation for us to create our own understanding and experience of what is Venus flavored by Gemini. What is that? How are we experiencing that? And especially some of these invitations to, for example, become the master networker goddess. Like, whoa. Co-creating the new earth playground. And this question of how can I show up with a wildly open heart and stay grounded in my purpose during these turbulent times. Thank you, ladies, for all of the thought and intention that went into helping each one of us start this cycle in a way that I'm pretty sure most of us have never done. I know some of our audience has worked with the Venus cycle very intimately, but for me and for many others, this is a very new experience. So thank you for being our guidesses on this journey. And also really there's something else really sticking out for me is this experience of the heroine's journey, which we're so familiar with the hero's journey. And as you were speaking of the heroine's journey, it's almost like you see the hero's journey sort of like this, and this heroine's journey like this, like we're doing this and it's happening simultaneously, and not one is not better than the other. And yet this is such an opportunity for us to really experience and understand what the difference is, you know, and how it feels to have that heroine's journey with as much intentionality as many of us maybe have experienced the hero's journey. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm inspired to say one more thing about the 19 months, just because it's a point that sometimes confuses people. And I think it could be valuable right now to remember that the Venus and Gemini energy, it's the, you know, the meta goddess or the sacred imprint of the feminine consciousness for the entire 19 months. But of course, I mean, she's going to move into Cancer next month. She's going to be on, those are like the chapters of the book. So though, you know, that energy is all still relevant and important, but it's like a subcategory, and she'll be this overarching. So I just, that concept of the book and the chapters, it can be really helpful for people to understand. They're like, wait, it's Venus and Gemini cycle, but now she's in Cancer. It's like, oh, that's the Cancer chapter of Venus and Gemini.
Well, it's like the way that I think many of us are experiencing this entire year with the Pluto Saturn conjunction in Capricorn. It's like, that's the overarching energy, you know, or like the bass drum, or I don't know what analogy, but it's the overarching, but then there's all these different chapters within that big story. And then of course that story is within another story. So, but it's, yes, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ladies, there is one last song that we would love to just like leave everyone with. So you all you can jump off or you can stay in, but one of our A-Team angels put it into our Slack channel this morning with our team. And the song is called Unconditional by Nick Mulvey. And he speaks to Venus very, very explicitly in this song. So beautiful. So we'd love to leave you all with this song. And if there's anything else you two, a couple things. If you love Sasha and Tami as much as we do, there will be another opportunity very soon for you to connect in with them, as well as 5 other astrologers, on our solstice panel that we are hosting. It's a free panel featuring 7 astrologers who are also our inner circle guides for the next few months of 2020. And Sasha and Tami will be there. You can go to astrologyhub.com/solstice and sign up for free. We're going to be covering the significance of this solstice and eclipse, as well as the energy of the rest of the year. And then we're also doing another ceremony for the actual solstice eclipse on June 20th. So June 17th is the panel, and we're going to be preparing you for the energy. June 20th is going to be the actual ceremony. That's going to be me and Tami and Gemini Brett. So you're all welcome to join us for both of those things, and they're both free. astrologyhub.com/solstice. Okay.
1,000 thank yous to you, Amanda, to you, Tami, to everyone. I just feel so full and hopeful at this time when, you know, our hearts are breaking open and we're writing this new story. And I'm just so grateful to be doing it with the likes of you.
Yeah, it's just thank you likewise, Sasha and Amanda, for presencing this Gemini energy from the heart, and for bringing, you know, I love that, bring the mind to the heart. You know, what is that expression about? What is the distance between the mind and the heart? And if that's the thing that can be our meditation for the next 19 months, I mean, as the undercurrent, I think what's most potent is we have a period of time where we can be in a deep meditation around this inquiry. And it's something I keep hearing as well. What does it mean to be one-hearted? You know, what does it mean? Because we know that when we work with the feminine energies of Venus, we might be encountering the distortion or the shadow or the hurt version of that. And the hurt version of Venus, of Gemini, is dissociative. It is the fragmented aspect. And so what Venus and Gemini, fully sourced, fully presenced, fully in the feminine heart, what she does is she brings those fragments down and in, helping us to become one-hearted. So that's what I would, you know, really wish for each of us on our journey now, is to drop into that. So I'm so grateful for this fertile field that's been created with the presencing of you two, and of all of you out there just holding that presence.
Thank you.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. I had one more
That's
thing come
awesome.
through for whoever's here left. It was so strong. So just, this is so beautiful. All those people were so human, and just thinking about what you were saying about, the hero's journey and the heroine's journey. I just want to say out loud, that everyone needs Venus medicine, man, woman, however you identify, whatever gender. And Gemini is very gender fluid. And I just feel like this might be a time, when more men are invited into claiming and owning and being with their feminine, so they can come more into wholeness, and then we can all be more whole. And I just felt to speak to that, because I didn't during the slide presentation. And look at these beautiful men of heart, like you just feel it, and then the women's voices, and it just really touched me. So they're always working in partnership. That was my main takeaway from this last cycle, is that the masculine and feminine are forever partnering in order for us to be creative beings. And so I just want to honor that out loud and speak to that. So that's the last hurrah. And oh my goodness, she's going to be exact in less than 15 minutes with this.
All right.
So,
All right. So everybody go outside and connect, and beautiful. Thank you so much. You're so lovely. Thank you for being here. Really, really appreciate you. Take care, everybody, and we'll catch you on the next episode. See you soon.